BET's 2015 Genius Talks brought out the best and brightest global celebrities.
I'm different from any other entertainer, any athlete.
See how Kobe Bryant gets unplugged off the court with Jamel Hill.
Seriously, what does failure mean? It doesn't exist.
Then, Erykah Badu and Janelle Monae freestyle about music and much more with Reggie Osei.
Someone posted, I think it was a performance of Janelle, and I said, look at me.
Rising stars break down the truth about being young in Hollywood with Big Tigger.
Whether it's the acting and music, I'm using, both platforms to kind of complement each other.
And Floyd Mayweather Jr. steps into the hot seat with Dougie Fresh.
Go on! This is called Genius Talk, so it's obvious I must be a genius.
This unexpected blend of performers.
I'm an analog girl in a digital world.
Moneymakers.
Like, yes, I did. I did that.
Game changers.
It's really hard for me to give a woman 100% of me.
Get candid about their influence and global success. Kobe Bryant commands the court and has 5 NBA championships with the Lakers to prove it. This genius goes one-on-one with ESPN's Jamel Hill for a rare look into his life beyond the NBA.
So, thank you for joining us and for doing this. As you know, the theme of it is, again, to learn different things, and you've been through such an interesting journey, still continuing. So I figured I would start it at the very beginning. As good as you are as a basketball player, as much as you have accomplished, people forget that when you came into the league, people kind of thought you sucked. How much did not having that instant success, how did you deal with that?
When I was going through it, I was so focused on trying to become one of the greatest that I literally did not hear anything that anybody else was saying. It was like, the gates open and, secretariat, it's all out the gates and he has the blinders on. I have no idea what's over here and what's over there. I have no clue.
So at what point did you begin to sense you were coming into your own as an NBA player?
I think around 2000, right, when the year Phil came, and then the game just completely, he showed me a completely new side of the game. Like it was like a different dimension of how to process the game. And once I started getting that level of teaching and understanding of concepts, then I felt like I had an advantage, a greater advantage than my competitors, AI and Ray Allen and all these other guys, because I knew they weren't getting coached at that level.
I always think that there's 2 types of players who love to win and players who hate to lose. Which one are you?
I'm neither.
Meaning?
I'm neither. Meaning that, I play to figure things out. I play to learn something. Because if you play with the fear of failing, you'll have the pressure on yourself to play, to capitulate to that fear. If you play with the sense of I want to win, then you have the fear of what happens if you don't. But if you find common ground in the middle, in the center, then it doesn't matter. You're unfazed by either, right? And that enables you to really just stay in the moment, stay connected to it, and not feel anything other than what's in front of you. So I try to just be dead center.
What is Kobe Bryant afraid of?
Bees. I'm not playing. No, I'm not playing. I'm really not playing. I had this really fatherly moment when I was with our daughters at soccer, and she's sitting there putting her shoes on, and a bee lands right next to her. And she's allergic to bees like I am, and the bee lands right next to her, and I was like, nah, I gotta, damn it, get out of here. I was like, yes, I passed the fight. She was like, what's wrong? I said, it was a bee right there. She was like, you saved me. I was like, yes, I did. I did that.
And you know what? She'll always remember that. Dad saved me from the bees.
Right.
So a lot of people in general are afraid of failure. How did you become one of those people who doesn't seem to be afraid of failing?
Failures, it doesn't exist. It's not existent. What the hell does that mean? Seriously, what does failure mean? It doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. What does it mean?
You're pulling a Jedi mind trick on me right now. I was like, does it exist?
No, I'm serious. I'm trying to think, how can I explain it? So, if you fail on Monday, the only way it's a failure on Monday is if you decide to not progress from that, right? So to me, that's why failure is not existent. Because, if I fail today, okay, I'm gonna learn something from that failure and I'm gonna try again on Tuesday. And I failed, I'm gonna try again on Wednesday. So it doesn't exist.
You know what? Should my ratings go in the tank? That's exactly what I'm gonna say to the bosses. Hey, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but you know what?
We should try it again on Thursday.
If your ratings go in the tank, and you know, which they won't, but if they did, you had learned a valuable lesson. You had learned a bunch of ways of how not to make a show that sucks. So then the next one will be better than the last one, right?
What do you learn from success?
No, I mean, from success, you learn how to do things the right way, right? But even that's an ever-evolving thing. Like, I can sit and watch a team and prepare for a team, and, you know, we play the team, we carve the team up, and the next time I play against a team, I'll start the game by trying the same tactics, but the reality is they'll be ready for those, right? So now I have to adjust, right? So success will give you a certain formula, a certain format, but even that, you have to evolve. Right?
Along the way, you've had some complicated relationships with your teammates.
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. What have you learned from some of those complications?
You know, in working with Shaq, the guy is he's a freak of nature, and he's mean when he plays, which, you know, I relate to, right? But there are other parts that I just didn't relate to. So there are certain things that were strengths of his, like putting his arm around the guys, right? And helping them be better emotionally, right? Giving them support. I wasn't very good at that. But my strengths were my focus and my dedication to the game, right? So I had to sit back and say, okay, we have these disagreements, but what can I learn from him? What does he do well? You gotta self-assess, right? All this stuff ain't coming from, it's not just made up, right? And so once I learned that, I think we were able to go to a higher level as a team.
Where do you think that perception that people don't want to play with you comes from?
Well, I mean, it's from people that, you know, want to take the easy route with stuff. We'll have no issues whatsoever. You want to come, you want to play your heart out and compete, and we'll have no issues. We have no issues. It's the people that bop, and say these things, are the people that don't show up to practices, the people that don't work hard, the people that aren't committed to it. We will never have anything in common. We just won't, and I'm completely fine with that.
Well, let's talk about somebody you clearly have a lot in common with, and that would be your lovely wife, Vanessa.
Oh yeah.
So what was it about her that was different?
You know, she's as competitive as I am, and
That's
she's
a scary thought.
yeah. She's as competitive as I am, and, you know, a great sense of humor, and just had the characteristics that I felt she was going to be a phenomenal mother. And what she is, I mean, she's a lioness. She takes care of our kids. I mean, she's with them 24 hours a day. You know, there's no babysitters, there's none of that. She handles everything with them, right? And yeah, so it's kind of like, it's a little upsetting. You know, when you say, well, you know, the wives of celebrities or high-profile people or whatever that stay at home and take care of their kids, don't do anything. The reality is that's the hardest job in the world, and it's the most pressure job in the world because you have the responsibility, the primary responsibility of raising kids to become great citizens. There's no more pressure job in the world. So, you know, when people say that, it's a little upsetting. I mean, she works harder than I do.
Up next on the Best of Genius Talks, Jamel gets Kobe to answer the big question about his retirement. And later, Floyd sets the record straight on what's more important to him than money.
Your childhood, as you've discussed before, it was kind of awkward. You know, you was you in the basketball court.
Being the only black dude in Italy? You know?
Only black dude in Italy, yeah.
Like, the hell? My kids see like a picture of me playing basketball when I was in Italy, and she decided to have a sense of humor and goes, "Oh, Dad, which one's you?"
How much did that kind of shape and influence who you became? You know, it had to be pretty difficult to grow up that way.
In that situation, you wind up being in isolation a lot, and so you have a lot of time to think. And I gravitated to basketball even more, you know, because of the lack of common ground that I had with friends over there. So I wound up playing the game a lot by myself and imagining and dreaming and envisioning and all sorts of stuff, you know, which is why I'm more comfortable shooting the ball through double teams than passing it to somebody in the corner for a game winner. No joke, because you grow up really relying on yourself, right? So I had to learn that it's okay to work with others. But when you grow up in isolation, you always kind of, especially in pressure moments, you always go back to.
Well, it's interesting because given how you grew up, I imagine with what you're going through now with the injuries, there's a certain amount of isolation that takes place in that. What's been the most difficult part as you've tried to recover from all of these injuries you've had?
Having to do it again. That's been the hardest part. I mean, the Achilles injury was devastating. That was hard to come back from. And now with the shoulder injury, to have to go through another 9-month process, you know, I had to really ask myself, like, do I want to do this again, right? Because to me, it felt like I just climbed Mount Everest, and now they put me down at the bottom of the mountain again. And you're looking up at the mountain, you have to ask yourself, man, do I really want to do this? And if the answer was no, I would have retired. That simple.
Well, since you brought up retirement, you said the word, the R word. I think
the R word.
The R word, retirement.
Putting the air quotes so
Got to put the air quote in this room? Absolutely. I think it was a couple months ago, Mitch Kupchak, he said, this will be Kobe's last year. Will this be your last year?
It might be. I mean, you got to retire sometime. My God. I'm not Benjamin Button, man. No, it might be. It might be. It might not be, man. I don't know. At the end of the season, if I feel like, you know, going through this again and doing it all over, I will. If I don't, I won't. I'll be ready to do something else. I'll be ready to take on that challenge and try to show athletes, like, listen, we are more than this. We can do more than play basketball. We can do more than simply sit here and be puppets for brands and for an industry. And when that time comes, I'll be ready to do that.
I was really shocked when you joined Twitter because it seemed like something that wouldn't quite be up your alley, but you're very entertaining on it. What did you hope people would learn about you when you decided to engage in social media?
I didn't do it for people to learn things about me. I just did it just to interact and talk and things like that. When individuals view it as a branding mechanism, then I think it becomes a problem, right? But I think if you just go in there with the idea of just being yourself, man, and just kind of having fun with people, whatever, then I think it's cool. You have a certain level of transparency too, which I think makes it awesome. You know, if you go up there and you're very guarded, that's no fun. There's no point, right? If you're gonna do it, you might as well just be who you are and just let it rip and have a good time doing it.
Maybe this was the wrong impression that people had. I think for a lot of your career, people had this idea that you were kind of guarded, and maybe you were, as you smirk at this. But it seems like through this sort of second act of your career that you've become much more open and much more transparent, to use your word. What made you kind of open up a little bit more?
The first half of my career is very standard. Right? You have endorsement deals. You try to not say anything that's going to jeopardize that, right? And so you wind up almost feeling like a puppet in a lot of ways, because in interviews you can't really say what you're thinking because you don't want to upset a market, right? And so I go through that process, and then something tragic happens, right? Which is me being an idiot, and then all the endorsement deals go away. Mm-hmm. And so now I had a time where I had to rebuild my career, rebuild my image. Might as well just be yourself. Like, if people aren't going to like you, let them see who you really are, and then let them decide, let them judge, right? So that means brands and endorsements, that's all gone. So I got to build my own company. I got to build it myself. And that's when things started turning for me. And that's when I just started becoming much more comfortable with just being who I am.
So in that way, you truly have become the old man, because you know, like your grandparents and stuff, like they don't really care what they say anymore, no filter.
Yeah, I'm like the basketball Gran Torino, man.
That's right. When you do finally retire, what do you want people to say about you, to think about you? How do you want them to remember you?
I think it's, that I reached my highest level of potential. Like, as much as I could have accomplished, I accomplished. Like, I left no stone unturned. I tried and learned as much as I possibly could to be the best possible player that I could be, to help my team be the best team that it could possibly be. I think I'm fine with that. Like, when I was like 16 years old, I had the goal in mind of saying, I want to be a talented overachiever. I felt like if I could play as if I was the last guy on the bench all the time, and had the God-given talent to be able to play the game, but had that mentality, then I'd be okay. So if people said that about me at the end of my career, I was a talented overachiever, I'd be more than happy with that.
Find out how the Electric Lady and the Queen of Neo Soul stay inspired. Next on the Best of Genius Talks. Electric Lady Janelle Monae and the Queen of Neo Soul, Erykah Badu, are two women with extraordinary voices and individual style. They go beyond the music and get personal with Reggie Osei of the Combat Jack Show to talk about being bold and breaking the rules.
You know, both of you are so outstanding. What's that? Sexy?
Yes.
Oh, of course, without saying, but both of you guys have definitely carved your own lane. Erykah, do you remember where you were when you first heard or saw or learned about Janelle Monae?
I was on okplayer.com, and someone posted, I think it was a performance of Janelle, and I said, look at me. I just felt like so connected to her. You were amazing, and after that, I started making steps toward getting my tour together at that time. It had to be about 6 years ago or so. Yeah. And I said, I want that girl to open for me. When we met, it was like...
We clicked instantly. It was like sisters, seriously.
Wonder twins.
Very organic
right.
and I'm still thankful. I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, to this day, I understand the importance of giving back. And I hope to make another female artist feel how Erykah made me feel when I came into the industry.
I want to start off with a question, actually a quote that you said once, Erykah, about how art has no rules. And I wanted to know what you meant by that and how you live by that, especially working through an industry that's rife with rules.
You know, there's so many rules to everything we do every day, especially in this business. Time is a factor, content is a factor, politics is a factor. And it kind of scares off the art a little bit. You know, there's no room for creativity in art because there's always this structure that we have to follow. And art doesn't work that way. You know, inspiration doesn't work that way. And I guess that's what I mean. You know, art really doesn't have any rules.
Where do you get the courage to trust your instinct and not know what the rules are?
It's not that I don't experience fear, but I understand that being fearless has to come first. Yes. And I think that's what I try to remind myself. Like, it's okay. Fear is like, you know, your friend, it's with you. You get it, you hear it, it's in your back of your mind, it's competing against, you know, your fearless side, and you just say, you know, it's not that I don't experience fear, accept it, acknowledge it, but fearlessness has to come first.
Yes. What have each of you learned from the other, working with each other?
Oh, lots.
I have. I've learned to stay honest. It comes from a very positive space, and it's just like, man, as I see her being herself, I feel a little bit better about just being myself.
She's very humble, and that humility is very, very contagious because she knows what she has and who she is, and it's not that urgent.
Tell us your first interaction and the first time you discovered hip-hop.
I was an MC before,
yes.
right? Before I was a singer. That's what I thought I wanted to be. And the greatest rap song I ever heard was The Message.
Yes.
Don't push me, cause you know, right. It had everything. Sonically, it was real ill, sonically, musically, social, political. You know, it talked about our struggle, who we are, and what we're about. I felt like, ooh, look at this, songs with talking songs. You know, this is powerful. You know, and I thought that's what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And it's just a very inspiring genre. And KRS-One said, rap is something you do.
Yes.
Hip hop is something you live.
Talk about the power of the voice and once you have a platform, the responsibility we have with our voices.
You have to just understand that everybody's purpose is not yours. Yes. Because of the way I was raised, the experiences that have happened in my past from, my family, my mother, my father, my grandmother was a sharecropper in Aberdeen, Mississippi. So because I know where I come from, whenever I get an opportunity to say something or somebody invites me to, whether it's the White House or George Lucas or whatever, I'm gonna maximize those opportunities because my grandmother sacrificed for me to be who I am.
You said perfection is often the enemy of greatness.
Yeah.
That means so much. What does that mean to you, and what did you mean by that?
I was in a discussion with a friend, and actually my friend told me, he said, Janelle, you're great. He was like, don't ever forget that perfection is often the enemy of your greatness. And then I started to dig more, and I'm like, one of my favorite players is Michael Jordan. And I said, if Michael Jordan doesn't make a free throw, is he still Michael Jordan? Hell yeah.
Period.
Up next, Karrueche, Quincy, and Brandon T. Jackson get real about Hollywood. And later, Floyd steps out of the ring to get personal on the Best of Genius Talks. Three of Hollywood's brightest rising stars, Karrueche Tran, Quincy, and Brandon T. Jackson, take a step away from the set to get real with Big Tigger about breaking out of the shadows and into the spotlight.
What specifically attracted you to the screen? What was that inner voice that says, you should be on this screen, this is what you should be doing with your life?
I just recently started acting within the past couple of years, and I'm going up against people who have been doing this all their lives, which is, very tough. Acting for me is like therapy. Emotionally, I like to keep things bottled in, and when you're an actor, you have to bring forth plenty of different emotions. So for me, I'm able to release that and into my performance.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brandon, what besides being silly all the time?
My thing, my dad's a pastor, so he used to hit,
Really?
the mic. Yeah. Yeah. You're looking at PKs are the worst ones. No, no, what it is it was, I would watch him on the mic, and what he would do is, like, out of nowhere, in the middle of a sermon, he would go off on, like, because we live in Detroit. Detroit is like, it's a ratchet meter as a level orange in Detroit, you know what I'm saying? So he would go off on the stuff in the city, and then he would get mad, and he would make the whole church laugh. And I was like, I can do that, but I don't want to do it basically on the, in the church setting, like in the pulpit or whatever. So what I would do is I start going on stage. It was like magic, the therapy of having people, really love what you do.
Now, Q, you grew up in this family that we're all well aware of. Was that a plus or a minus?
It definitely was a gift and a curse at the same time, I mean, just, from outside in looking in, my dad, he can get me to the door. He can't keep me in the door, stuff like that. But, when I really strategically thought about my career and saw kind of like next 2-3 years ahead of me, I didn't even want that bring me to the door thing, because that's kind of like half the work cut out.
Right.
And I still kind of want to be respected for, well, not kind of, I still want to be respected for everything I was doing, whether it's the music, whether it's, the acting, and that way it's like I'm able to really put my work in and people can see it and respect it rather than just say, oh, that's Diddy's son, yeah, they made that call, which is, of course, I get it, can't run away from that, but, it's finally time for people to, really recognize me for me and see what I do, yeah.
Nice. If you could work with anybody, who's your dream counterpart collaboration? Who's somebody that oh man, if I could just get a scene or a song or a comedy tour with that person, who would it be?
Actor would be Halle Berry.
Halle Berry.
She's Halle Berry, come on.
As far as actors, definitely Will Smith. And musically, definitely want to collab with Drake. Drake is one of my favorite artists. He's obviously amazing in everything he does with the singing and the rapping and everything. So yeah, definitely Drake.
B?
You said all the light-skinned people. Will, Drake, took all the light-skinned people. I gotta go with the Golden State Warriors. That's what I want.
Let me see. Wesley Snipes. Let me see. Denzel.
Kevin.
No, Wesley's a cold actor though,
Yeah,
man.
he is, no doubt.
You know, sorry, he just take them off. Let me think. You know, you know what? I want to work with Kevin Hart. Kevin was always that person that was so humble and so cool that it made you feel like you can do it too. So that's one person I think like now I want to kind of work with.
I've been telling this to young people for the last couple of years. This is important to me to express to everybody watching and listening. You are what you tweet, people. What's some good ways to use social media to advance your platform and your branding?
Social media is everything. Your fans get to see you every day, and I think it's very important if you're trying to build a brand to invest and to really use that tool to help your brand and your career.
You got a lot of things happening. Tell me what you got going on coming up.
Definitely. Right now, I am on another web series called Vanity, which is on stylehall.com, and it comes out every Thursday. So y'all gonna watch that. My other web series, which is The Bay, we just wrapped that a few weeks ago. That'll be out in September. Next month, I have a movie out that I was the lead role called Three-Headed Shark Attack. Yes, Three-Headed Shark Attack.
What you got coming up, Q?
Yeah, I can, finally all the acting stuff kind of calming down a little bit. I can finally say my album is finished.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been working for like a year and a half, 2 years, just on this nice little project, and I finally, at a finishing point. I hate when I do this, but like I always don't know when I'm finished. It's like, but you have to really, as whatever it is, if you setting a goal, if you got a project, set a deadline. You got to set those things so everything can become realistic. Because, I'm an independent artist. I ain't got no label telling me, yo, you got to turn your album in, boom, boom. So I'm finally at the point now, and I say before the end of the summer, I can give the world a little self-titled project, Quincy. Yeah.
Nice. Brandon.
I got my my sitcom coming out on NBC. It's called Mr. Robinson. I got a TV show I'm producing also and starring in, executive producer starring in, called Comedians of LA. It's about the road life of comedy. And I don't have a date yet for my stand-up comedy special, but it's coming soon. And I think people gonna get to know who I am, not just, the dude with the goat legs. You know what I'm saying? So.
They will be the first to tell you it ain't easy. There's a hustle to it, there's an art to it, and there's hours and hours of hard work that go into building your brand. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Coming up, Floyd shows us why he's the self-proclaimed champ of Genius Talks. Fresh off of the biggest fight in the world of boxing, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the man with the plan. Dougie Fresh and Janelle Snowden double-team the highest-paid athlete in the world to discuss life outside of the ring.
So how y'all feeling? You see? You see what I got with me? You see?
Hey. Yes.
This brother here, I've gotten to know over a period of time. It was an incredible experience to be a part of the biggest fight in the history of boxing. You got a life in the ring, you got a life outside of the ring, and there's been so many boxers over the years that have not been able to balance out both sides of this game. How do you feel about your family?
Well, family's first. I came up extremely rough.
Right.
And I want to always give my children the finer things in life. I got to where I'm at because of my father. And it was a long road, hard road, but just being very, very smart and just making calculated moves. I had a game plan from day one. My game plan was to have personality, build my empire to, communicate, be flashy, be flamboyant, get my name out there for the world to know who I am. My ultimate goal was to get to the pinnacle, to the Pacquiao fight. That was the ultimate goal.
People see what you have now, but you came from humble beginnings. In most boxers and most people in this sport, it seems like there's some kind of a built-in DNA, something in them that make them rise to the occasion far beyond.
I'm a little different from any other athlete. I believe, from the beginning, I believe. And I didn't get in boxing just to be the best fighter. I wanted to be the smartest businessman in the sport of boxing. That's the thing, people don't really understand business, and I do. That's why you go look at the Forbes list. So far this year, I think we made 300 million, and we still probably got 200 million more to make. So we're talking about 500 million in 12 months, and less than 12 months.
Yeah, well, it's real hard to be mad at them numbers right there. When you get into the ring now, and you got money, you got cars, you got all these different things, what is the motivation to get in there and still win?
September 12th is my last fight, of my career. I got the will to win at whatever I do, no matter what it is. And every time I go out, I approach it like it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Now, when you're in that ring, you're pretty much by yourself. I mean, you got your corner, but you by yourself.
No, I learned that when I was in jail, when I done time. I was more like, I looked at the situation like someone else, when you put trust in someone else, if they let you down, you be so hurt. A person will be so hurt, but I'm more like, I put my trust in myself. I know Floyd ain't gonna let Floyd down.
Right.
And I feel like, even like with the Pacquiao fight, I mean, everybody said the fight didn't live up to the hype. It wasn't me, it was him. This is the guy that they put they put this guy on the same pedestal as me. This is called Genius Talk, so it's obvious.
Go hard.
This is called Genius Talk, so it's obvious I must be a genius to be able to do what I've been doing for 20 years and still be at the top. The thing is this is what I do with a fighter. When I go out there, I do whatever your best attribute is, I take it away from you and make you resort to doing something different.
Right.
And so this is a guy that they put on a high pedestal, or he's gonna beat Mayweather. He's fast like Mayweather, he throw a lot of combinations. We'll just see.
Was you disappointed and after the fight was over, he said something about his shoulder was hurting and that was the reason why? I mean, this is real. This is Genius real talk now. Like he said his shoulder, like how did you feel about him saying that? Did you feel like he was trying to take something away from what really happened?
If Pacquiao was able to make 100 or 120, whatever he made.
Right.
And I was able to make 300, when I got the ring, I didn't care if his arm was hurt or not. If you go back and look at my past interviews, I predicted that was gonna happen. I'm not Nostradamus, but I predicted that was gonna happen.
That he was gonna come up with an excuse.
They all come up with an excuse.
Coming up next on the Best of Genius Talks, Floyd answers your questions about money and love.
I want to tap into all the dimensions. There's another young lady here, journalist, worked with BET Centric. She's here, and she has specific questions from a female's perspective. All the ladies in here make some noise. And I can't ask you those kind of questions. Janelle Snowden is going to come out. Y'all can give her a round of applause. She's going to come out and ask you a couple of questions because, yes.
Follow
you like
you.
an Hervé Leger dress.
He knows his designers, lady. Don't we love that? Don't we love a man who knows good fashion?
So I can't ask him those questions.
What questions?
I got you. I'm here to speak for the ladies and to ask some of the questions that men can't ask. You have 2 daughters, and clearly you're materialistic, but are you the type of man that you would want your daughters to marry?
Like what? By what y'all see on TV? I think I'm no different from, I look at the situation like this. I have to, because I know y'all going with this. I know they like Floyd's a ladies' man. I know where they going with this. I'm just more like I'm entitled to, I feel like Just wait. I don't want to rush.
Take your time, take your time. It's a hard question.
This is my time. Let me take my time. Don't want to rush. Whatever men my daughter meet, either or, I just want them to make sure that they respect my daughters, they love them, and treat them well.
And what will happen if they don't?
I won't get involved because those are the choices that she made. Now, if they come to me and ask me for my advice, I can give them my advice, but once they get to a certain point, they're gonna do what they wanna do regardless.
Your personal life hasn't been without its challenges, we all know.
Absolutely, let's talk about it.
Okay, I love it.
And listen, I'm different from any other entertainer, any athlete. Shoot it at me. Say what you want to say.
I'm ready. I'm not hesitating now. I know we only have a certain amount of time.
I know we have enough. I'm Mayweather. I got all the time.
Oh well, then hey, I'm gonna get comfortable.
I know you want to sugarcoat it. You can shoot it at me. I'm okay. I'm a big boy.
Well, there's a well-publicized lawsuit that's going on right now from one of your exes.
Which one of my exes? Because more than one ex is suing me.
What are the biggest lessons you've learned throughout your relationships?
I don't want to. It's hard for me to give. It's really hard for me to give a woman 100% of me. Too nervous. I keep my guards up.
Okay, you keep your guards up, but eventually the right one will come along to help you bring them down.
I got not the right woman. I got the right women in my life now.
Okay, so tell me then, when you get with a new woman, what does that conversation go like? What is the understanding? Like
if I was to how I bring them to the table?
Let me know.
Put
me up on the game.
I just tell them one thing. I say I need 1% of your trust. I earn the other 99. Put your number in this phone right here.
You could have all the money in the world, but that's not enough for some ladies.
Well, I'm not slacking in no department if that's what you're asking.
Tell them. I'm almost afraid to look at him, right? I'm almost afraid to look at him because I feel like if I look at you, there's...
Of course, I will seduce a woman with my eyes.
I gotta ask you one final question, and that is, when it's all said and done, when the history books are written and they're the chapters on your professional life, your personal life, everything all together, what do you want the world to say about Floyd Mayweather?
Only thing that counts is what my children think when it's all said and done.
And what do you want them to think?
That he wasn't a good father, he was a great father. And that's what's important, because I don't want to get married. I want to live my life. I want to have fun. I love living my life. I love to go home to my mansion and just be free. I can do what I want to do. I like living my life. That's how I like to live.
Live your life.
Absolutely.
And a wonderful life. And a wonderful life.
And I'm going to tell everybody out there, live your life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.